Welcome back to Stormwatch. We really apologize for the break in continuity, and we're currently experiencing intermittent power cuts. But we want to assure you that our technicians are working assiduously to remedy the situation. Before we left off, we did talk about the presentation by the Ministry of Tourism at the pre-strike NEMAC meeting, and so we want to go back to this presentation. At some point in the evening, we will be having the Director of Met Services, Mr. Andre Joye, live on the line, and he's going to give us an update.
So before we do that...
Good morning, Mr. Prime Minister, members of the head table, ministers of government and attendees. My name is Noorani Aziz of the St. Lucia Hospitality and Tourism Association. I wish to inform you that our Tourism Management, Disaster Management Response Committee was activated since the 1st of June. And since then, we have had seamless exchanges and communications with key agencies, in particular our line ministry, the Ministry of Tourism. To date, we have captured occupancy data on island as at yesterday, and that information has been shared with the relevant authorities. We, as I indicated, continue to have open lines of communication with representatives of SLASPA, Ministry of Tourism, NEMO, etc. Last month, we concluded on a ham radio training for operators within the industry. So we expect that we've ramped up on those skill sets. And we've also reconfirmed our list of satellite phones available to members within our association. The occupancy levels by our count, as it relates to the feedback provided by our members, stand at approximately 60%. And this accounts for approximately 4,000 visitors on island. We cannot account, however, for the occupancy levels among the sharing economy operators, that is your traditional Airbnb. To date, as I indicated, we continue to work with our members, and just this morning issued another advisory that not only are they to conclude on the matters related to their preparation, but also matters which are of interest to staff members and scheduling and manning, to ensure that their needs are of equal priority, as is the accommodation of our guests during this time. We expect, after the discussions today, to set up another high-level committee at which exchanges will be had among the most senior persons of the relevant agencies that we are in touch with. That includes our line ministry, the Ministry of Tourism. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions? Thank you.
We, as our colleagues from the SLTA, we activated our disaster management plan yesterday. We have since communicated to our audiences that the airport has been closed. We did so yesterday. We have also communicated to all through our social platforms that should anyone be in any areas, they should communicate to us directly so that we can account of where the accommodations are, where they are situated. We also have some members of the media who are on island as we speak, so we have made accommodations to move them in other presumably safer areas, so we can account for them should any issues face them. So essentially, Minister, so we can proceed to welcome our visitors tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you again for staying with the broadcast. This is Stormwatch. I am Riani Isidore, and I am joined by Julita Peter. We will stay with you. Bret, we do have the lines open, and at this time, the Director of St. Lucia Met Services is with us via telephone, Mr. Andre Joye. He will now provide us and you, St. Lucia, with the latest weather forecast as it relates to Tropical Storm Bret. Mr. Joye, can you hear me? Are you with us?
Yes. Good evening.
Mr. Joye. So we had the 6 p.m. weather forecast. Bret, at that time, sustained winds up to 70 miles per hour. Has the situation changed since then?
Yes, it has somewhat. The direction of the tropical storm Bret has actually changed. It's now passing to the south of St. Lucia, heading towards St. Vincent.
South heading
So
to
we,
St. Vincent, Mr. Joye, just to put into perspective for the viewing audience, does that mean the cloud mass will not hover over St. Lucia? Give us a sense as to how much
okay.
Bret will hover over the island on its route.
Most of the front part of the depression has passed. There was some what you call sharing, which prevented the system from actually causing any rainfall. But to the back, the end of the depression, this is where most of the convection and the strong winds are. So this is expected to pass over us in the next couple of hours.
Is it too early to determine whether or not Bret has weakened or strengthened?
Well, it has weakened to some extent, but like I said, the hardest part, or it's not the hardest. The greater convection is to the back of the depression, which is yet to come.
Okay. So, I mean, it's 8:45, 8:45 p.m. now.
Yeah.
What timelines can we anticipate before
Well, initially
the brunt of Bret?
Initially we said that the center would have passed by 10 p.m. and it seems that was a good forecast. So we are sticking with that 10 p.m. and expecting stronger winds and heavy rainfall after 10.
Considering the forecast in terms of the rainfall, which locations, and of course taking into account its current trajectory, moving or dipping further south, which communities do you anticipate to be worst affected by Bret in its current state? You said weaker, but some strong winds and some rainfall is still expected. So which locations throughout the country might expect the worst of Bret?
Okay, well, we know the traditional flood-prone areas. I don't think I should mention them.
Often Lucia being in the middle of the in a hurricane belt, it's always useful to sort of remind St. Lucians of the
yes, well, along any riverbank, once you have houses close to rivers, those are prone to flooding. Any settlement that is close to the foot of any mountain range or hills, because the rainfall would accumulate above them and then come down in a rush, so they would be susceptible to flooding. Yeah, so that's why we normally say persons in flood-prone and low-lying areas. We know the Castries Basin always floods. Bexon, these areas.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Jrai, saying that the Bret has changed direction and passing mainly through the south. As we speak, any reports of heavy rains in the south?
Any
report of any rains? Is it raining in the south at present?
Yes, it is raining in the south, and we're expecting more rainfall later.
Up to 6 to 8 inches. Is this going to hold? Do you anticipate over the course of this evening?
It would be safe to to keep that figure, because the way the prediction was is that from Thursday into Friday, the accumulated rainfall over those 2 days would have been 3 to 6 inches, and that's accumulated rainfall from Bret, associated with Bret.
And just so that the St. Lucians are clear and not to misinterpret or misunderstand the apparent weakening of Bret, this, and you can correct me here, Mr. Joye, Bret's weakening state and southerly trajectory does not mean that we are in the all clear, right?
No, definitely. Persons who have been outside would say that, nothing really transpired, it's just a little bit of wind. But we are anticipating that later tonight we would get conditions that are a lot more serious.
And at present, we are still under a tropical storm warning.
Yes, we are.
Yes. And just early before you came on the call, Julita and I were just discussing the variances between a warning and a watch, and also the fact that Bret is St. Lucia, or at least at 6 p.m., was under a hurricane watch. So are you in a position to go ahead and explain to us that those differences were hurricane
terminologies?
Yeah, we're under a hurricane watch, but at the same time we're under a tropical storm warning.
Yeah. The reason for the hurricane watch is due to an aircraft called the Hurricane Hunter, which goes into the aircraft and gets the actual reading, the winds and the rainfall and the pressure. So they notice that there are areas in the storm where you get strong winds that are up to hurricane force. So as a precautionary measure, we went for a hurricane watch. That means that we could expect, certain gusts that could go up to that level, 73 miles per hour and above. So it's a precautionary measure, but really and truly is the tropical storm warning that takes precedence there.
And before we let you go, Mr. Joye, Director, there is another system trailing Bret. What can you tell us about the forecast in relation to this newly developing system, and should we, in the Windward Islands and in St. Lucia specifically, be concerned about this other system?
Well, any system that's in the Atlantic is an area for concern. This system has developed into tropical depression number 4, and the initial forecast is for it to move to the north, so it would pass above the island chain. But I would like to point out that the initial models for Bret also showed that Bret would have passed north of the island. So it is always good to follow the weather reports and see how the systems develop.
Yes.
But for now, the forecast is that the depression number 4, if it develops, will move north of the island chain.
Well, Mr. Joye, I want to thank you for this timely update. Viewers can take away some new developments as it relates to tropical storms Bret's trajectory. It's dipped southerly and appears to have weakened. However, the brunt of Bret, to so put it, is still expected to affect parts of the island in the coming hours around the 10 p.m. region. The downpours, according to you just now, Mr. Joye, are expected to peak at up to 8 inches in certain areas.
That's a lot of rain.
Yeah. So by no means should we interpret this weakening and change in direction as a moment
Yes,
to...
we really cannot let our guards down.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with your summary.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'll say thank you to Mr.
Yes,
Chuan.
have a good night and stay safe.
And I'm sure before the night is over, we will be hearing from you again.
Hopefully, yeah, we hope to.
Sure, thank you. So
Okay,
at this
thanks.
point, we'll go back to another presentation at the pre-strike NEMAC meeting. Let us go to tourism again.
Last week, we have been putting out press releases to our sector, reminding them that we are in the hurricane season and that they should take the necessary steps to ensure that they safeguard their business, ensure that the necessaries are in when it comes to safeguarding their visitors, etc. And we have, as indicated by Mr. Nurani Aziz, we have been in communication with our key tourism stakeholders, keeping them abreast as the advisories come in from NEMO and as well as the Met Office. And we've also been posting on our Facebook page little tidbits in terms of what you should do in the event of a storm, pre and after. Thank you.
Well, I was trying to tell the Prime Minister, update him so he can inform you, because I was just updating him this morning. Had a meeting with the chairperson of the Carnival Planning Management Committee. As you know, we'll be having semi-finals Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Groovy, Soca Power, and Calypso finals on Sunday. Now, it's really difficult for us now. So Friday's show has definitely been postponed. We've not yet postponed Saturday nor Sunday, still hoping for the best. And we've not been able to reschedule because I'm told that the Met Office is saying that there's another system right behind and they're not sure what's going to happen. And we are hoping that all goes well and that life can return to normal next week. But let's just hope. I'm not sure what the latest would be, but it would be a major disruption for us because, as you know, every night from now until the middle of July has something, and visitors are starting to come in, for those events from this weekend as we build up to Queen Show next week Friday and the big events. So there will be some disruptions. I think that the team is meeting now, trying to see what they can do in terms of changing around the schedule if anything should happen. So we will be in touch with the police as well. This weekend we're supposed to have Soufre Carnival, Denry Carnival on the weekend. They wanted to have Juve, so I think it's a perfect excuse for them not to have Juve this weekend. But all the programs and everything will have to change. And hopefully if all goes well, tonight, tomorrow, life can return to normal as soon as possible. But this is going to be the highest arrival period for St. Lucia, early July, in terms of visitor arrivals to the country. This is the 2 weeks when we get the most people coming to St. Lucia. So you can understand how critical it is for us to respond and get life back to normal, because the Prime Minister will tell you is when he smiles the most, when he sees the numbers for early July. So it's really, really important that we get things back under control as soon as possible. Thank you, PM.
Just a reminder, my name is Rihani Isidore. This is Stormwatch. For those just joining us, you would have just listened to stakeholders from the Ministry of Tourism. The Minister of Tourism just provided his ministry's response at a pre-strike meeting convened earlier that was ahead of Tropical Storm Bret's impact over St. Lucia. Over the course of tonight, we will revisit the pre-strike meeting today to get a sense of the level of preparedness from the various stakeholders throughout the public and private sectors. But going back to now, a reminder, we are at the NEMO Secretariat in BZ Castries, where the NEOC, the National Emergency Operations Center, is activated. The NEOC, in short, is directed by Mr. Lucius Lake. very familiar to disaster preparedness, disaster management in St. Lucia. And Mr. Lake and his team are here to continue leading the continue leading and coordinating the responses in relation to Tropical Storm Bret. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Lake.
Thank you for being here.
How busy has it been over the last couple of hours?
Not too busy. We have some calls coming in from various portions of the island where we expect persons to heed all what is being said now. The calm before the storm is true in saying that Bret has dipped a bit, but we're not in the clears as yet. But a few reports have been coming in, and 1 or 2 shelters have been opened and persons are being housed in these shelters as we speak presently.
Yes. And St. Lucia, there are communities, locations, geographic locations that are just prone to and just vulnerable whenever there are weather events moving over the island. Mr. Lake, what are some of those locations, and have you received any information in terms of distress or any need for the NEOC to deploy resources to those locations?
The areas we are prone to flooding with these types of disasters: Dennery, Ancillary Canneries, Mark Bexon area. There was a rescue in Dennery of a 98-year-old female. Because of rising sea waters, the Dennery Fire Service was able to handle that with assistance from the Dennery District Disaster Committee under direction of Mr. Osbert Regis. That is happening right now. There's a shelter, we just got information, that has been opened in Viewfort. There's another shelter open where we have 4 male occupants in that shelter. So a few shelters are open because persons' homes are compromised or not able to, or they're not comfortable to withstand what Bret may bring in, and that level of relief is there for them at this point.
And just to sort of get a better understanding of the emergency shelters, are these buildings opened before or after, or even during the passage of an extreme weather event?
During the passage of an extreme weather event, no shelter will be open then, neither will you get responses from police, fire, or emergency personnel in that regard. Some shelters, providing information is given in advance, will be open prior to impact. In most cases, we have opened shelters, or shelters have been opened after impact, because in some instances, persons' households are able to withstand whatever is being brought forward. But you must take into consideration that for shelters to be open, there must be a management team in place. It's not a matter of opening the plant or the shelter and allow the citizenry to occupy at their will and fancy. There will be movement of furniture or items in the particular shelters that are being used, because they're not purposely built for that purpose. They are dual usage, and the information must be given in advance. Somebody has to come into open to take account of what it is, to move items and ensure that whoever occupies is comfortable enough until the all clear is given and they're able to return back to a level of normalcy or to their homes. And
according to you just now, on at least 2 occasions, or at least 2 locations, shelters have been activated to accommodate individuals whose domiciles, dwellings cannot withstand Bret's impact.
I can say we have Beanfield Shelter in Beanfield Secondary School in Beanfield in Viewfort. 8 persons are housed from Bruceville. And we have the 98-year-old female who is being housed. We have 6 other persons in another shelter. So we have shelters open. It's not a matter that shelters remain closed and persons don't have access. The information is given in a timely manner, so you can get the shelter managers to come and assist in getting it done. It's a little process, because when things get back to normal, the shelters which were dual use have to go back to its original use, and you want to ensure that it is left almost in the pristine condition it was found before.
The team you lead here at the NEOC, just give the audience a sense of who comprise your team here.
We have the Commissioner of Police, the Chief Fire Officer, Dr. Joseph from the Medical Ministry of Health. We have the chair of the Transportation Committee. We have Colonel Hyacinth with the cadets. We have some other NEMO volunteers. We have a cross section of persons assisting in that regard. It's not a one-person operation. Whereas the director of NEMO has other functions to do, what we have done is to enable her to, or the director to carry on these functions, while we have our radio operators getting information, contacting the other entities, documenting the information, and allowing the smooth transition of what it is, where relief supplies are required, assistance for whatever it is. We get reports of fallen trees where we could inform infrastructure, where there are power outages in particular areas or damaged lines. If they can't, we contact Lucia on their behalf. So we more or less a coordinating agency, and we also report to the international and regional entities who are seeking resources if the need comes forward for us. So it's an open conversation we're having where it pertains to that form of assistance granted to the citizenry.
Yes. And kudos to you and the teams on the ground, and even the teams at the activated shelters so far. I mean, they have a task of sort of ensuring the safety of these individuals who occupy these shelters right now and over the course of the evening. That rescue effort in Dennery Village, in Dennery South there, timely, I would imagine, and we trust that all is in place to ensure the safety of the senior down there. But would you? I mean, how busy? I mean, has it been as busy as you would have anticipated at this point in time?
No, because Bret has dipped, and the scenarios we went through prior to Bret dipping has changed what has happened. It's moved to the south of the island, so it's between St. Lucia and St. Vincent, as compared to the projected path which showed the northern tip of the island being affected.
Yes.
That is good news, but information you're getting that the northern quadrant of the system is where you have all the water and everything else you don't want.
The brunt of Bret.
Which is what we are going to be getting soon. So we are braced for that, and we hope that residents remain at home and don't go trying to be disaster tourists or to be the first to post it, because at some point in time emergency services are not going to go out. We're not going to go out in any way or cause any person to go out to do any form of disaster assistance soon from now. So we're going to hunker in and ride it through.
Eventually, the all clear will be issued, whether by the Prime Minister or the NEMO. When that all clear is eventually issued to the public, what should they expect? Who goes out immediately? Who goes out first? Is there some sort of process?
Yes, before the all clear is given, you have emergency services and the engineer. It'll be multifaceted. As far as the reports are received, the various agencies will go out and ensure the roads are cleared, and as was said in the pre-strike meeting with Lucia, ensure that no lines are down, or if lines are down, that has been taken care of, because it's a time factor we're working with to accommodate SLASPA and reopen of the airports. So you want to ensure that all your ducks are lying in a row, that when the all clear is given, all persons can traverse as per normal. I don't expect supermarkets and all to be open depending on that time frame or how much they'll be. So you'll find a lot of persons will be driving to see what has happened, where you had information.
So even if the all clear is given, there's no need to rush out.
No,
we want to allow the emergency response teams some time to do some reconnaissance, to assess potential areas where there may be some potential damage.
Yes.
Clear that out. Let's give them a chance to clear debris, clear roadways, depending on the severity, and then we can begin. The general public can begin to.
Persons will be eager to go out and see what it is, unless you're going to see family or anything of that nature. What are you doing on the roads? And you don't want to restrict anybody in any way at all. But there will be movement of emergency vehicles and vehicles which have been procured for this event. Remember, there's another system coming behind. We're not sure of its exact trajectory. We're not telling persons to stay in, but everything will be closed.
Yes.
So enjoy the time at home, rest with family, do some more clearance of drains if you have anything to do to clear around the place. But stay put until such time, because the all clear will be given saying that persons can move around freely, but where are you going to? Yes. We just want persons to work along with us in that regard to ensure that we're able to meet the needs of the other persons who may be feeling the brunt of it after the fact, because not all reports come in a timely manner. There may be delays before the information reaches the EOC, for which we can send the Dana teams out to get the information, do the assessment, and then come back in and see how we could render assistance.
Mr. Lucia Slick, Lieutenant Colonel, Director of the NEOC. He has a long night ahead of him. Hopefully we don't, but we will be on hand to provide you with the updates as they unfold. I want to thank you for your time, and if needs be, of course, Mr. Lucius Lake will be on hand to provide. Back to the NEMAC pre-strike meeting earlier today, various stakeholders, as we indicated earlier, would have given reports to the Prime Minister and the NEMAC head as to their state of readiness, housing, storm watch in a few.
Will be passed on to NEMO with their contact information to ensure that the facilities, HRDC centers, community centers within our purview, keys are handed over smoothly. Although disaster committees can work smoothly alongside emergency councils if needs be. We have a meeting at 12:30 scheduled for all our councils, so we have this and that collaboration between our disaster councils and disaster councils. As it relates to our technical staff, they remain ready and available if NEMO in the aftermath if something does happen to do an assessment of the housing stock. Also our research unit. Thank you much.
Stormwatch. No doubt an event such as this does have some serious implications on health and health system. And we do have Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Glenn, on the level of preparedness as far as the Ministry of Health is concerned, and he was also accompanied by the CEO of the Millennium Heights Medical Complex, Dr. Dexter James, and so we're going to bring you those two gentlemen right now. Take a look.
Health.
Ministry of Health stands ready to respond to the impending storm or hurricane, whichever one it is. I will allow our disaster team comprising Dr. Joseph as well as the heads of the two hospitals, the CEOs, to begin the presentation. Thank you.
Good morning all. I acknowledge the head table. At this time, as indicated, the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs stands ready to respond to whether we have a storm or a hurricane. Thanks. Thank you. And we looked at the various facilities within the primary care setting and the hospital. I will give you a summary of the primary care and allow the heads of the two hospitals to give you a summary of their level of preparedness. We have updated our national plans as well as at the community levels. We have in particularly looked at ensuring we have continued delivery of services within primary care. And as such, the contingency plan was put in place to ensure that the Grosse Lake Polyclinic and the Dennery Hospital that operates from 8 until midnight will be operational for 24 hours starting today. Now that we will have some closure of the smaller facilities, which will be in line with closure of business places and the public sector. Mechanism was put in place to ensure that the persons closer to these facilities are going to be the one to deliver the services, noting that some of these facilities can be cut off from the rest of the islands, and to ensure that we can continue delivering. We have looked at our general supplies, first for medical supplies and pharmaceutical, and our central procurement is already activated and dispensing medication to key health facilities, as well as ensuring patients have an adequate supply of medication to weather the storm beyond 72 hours. We have looked at the food supply to ensure that the wellness centers, as well as the staff at those facilities, will have enough food to last should we be impacted. The fuel for these facilities, the generators, they were continuously serviced, and they have been, most of them, complete the refueling process, with two, the entrepot and ancillary, fueling to be completed today. We have looked at our water supplies, and the facilities they do have adequate water supply to ensure that these key health facilities and even the other primary care facilities have adequate supply of water. And of course, we do have a contingency plan with WASCO to ensure that we can be resupplied. And of course, the Environmental Health Division would have put mechanism in place to ensure that if there is any interruption of water, they have some level of treatment to allow for the utilization of such. As indicated, we have made accommodation for the staff, and structurally, we have looked at the facilities in terms of cutting off trees, clearing of drains. Those have been more or less complete, and their communication at the various health facilities, in particular GIPC Soufrière and Soufrière Hospital, along with Denry, where they have the two-way communication that will allow them to communicate with NEMO. As indicated, we looked at our human resource. I want to point out how much we have been working in collaboration with the rest of the team, as there has been the activation of the plans for the homeless, where they will be and would have been taken into the sports complex, and the Ministry of Health would have activated its team to be responsive physicians and nurses, and they should be at the facility as we speak, as we've had discussion this morning. To note, PAHO committed to supporting the Ministry of Health in the event. We have been in dialogue, and they are well aligned to provide some support. And one thing I would like to note, I do acknowledge the presentation by infrastructure, but we have a facility which is the Soufrière Hospital, and we do note at that river behind the hospital what can happen if we do not have the adequate clearance. So this is something that we should look into. So at this point, just to know that the rest of the departments within the Ministry of Health, that is environmental, nutrition, epidemiology, and all the other departments stand ready to provide their role should we have a storm. And at this time, I will hand over to the Millennium Heights Medical Complex to provide us with a summary of their level of preparedness, contributing to the overall Ministry of Health and Wellness preparedness. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. James.
Doug, before you go.
Okay, thank you.
You spoke about the generators. That's extremely important, eh?
Yes. We do know that there was smarting of several of our wellness facilities, about 14 of them, and these were provided with generators, and we have ensured that these generators are functional and fuel, not only for the main facilities such as Dennery, Grosley, and Soufrière, but the smaller facilities that have been smarted, those generators are up and running. Actually, while we do note that there are 3 key facilities that will provide support for 24 hours to support the hospitals, there are some smaller facilities that we earmark depending on the level of impact that we can utilize to provide support.
Don't forget the one and Chipo.
Yes, yes. As mentioned earlier, entry
you said it wasn't. You said it didn't fill it yet.
Pardon me?
You said the one that was not filled as yet.
No. We have started even before the first NEMAC meeting to ensure that our facilities, the generators and everything were up to speed. And as such, the process continues. And this morning, we just have 2 more to be completed, and by lunch, by this afternoon, that will be done. So all of them are being looked into, but the process, those are the last two to be completed this morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Protocol established. Pleasant good morning. I am Dexter James, CEO of the Millennium Heights Medical Complex. Over the last 48 hours, we've activated our hurricane plan, and our disaster management team has been meeting at least twice a day to make sure that we're in a state of preparedness to address the perhaps unlikely event that this hurricane will hit us. We assure the public that the OKU and the entire complex is in a state of readiness and preparedness for any eventuality, whether it be a hurricane or a tropical storm. In terms of our infrastructure, our generators, which are normally checked on a daily basis, are fueled and can support the hospital for 12 continuous days. We do have water supply that can run the hospital for at least 7 to 8 days, which is above the standard set by PAHO WHO of 3 to 4 days. In terms of food supplies, we've been taking steps to ramp up our food supplies over the last 2 months to at least 25% of our normal usage, so we believe we're pretty okay where food supply is concerned. We've updated our call-out listing. As of today, our backup team will be on campus to make sure that we have staff to continue operations in the event of a total shutdown. We have also started to discharge patients as of yesterday. The occupancy level now at the hospital is about 75%, both at OKU and the National Mental Wellness Facility. We continue to discharge patients as of today. There are 21 patients in A&E now that we are seeking to move on to the wards. Patients on life-threatening therapies, dialysis, cancer treatments, they have been called in to receive treatments, shorter treatments, so that they could tide them over during this period of wait. In terms of the respiratory hospital, the secondary care facility, to be more exact, we had a meeting yesterday with the disaster planning committee on that site. As you know, the facility has now been repurposed as Castries multipurpose medical facility. We only have 10 patients in a 12-bedded unit at the chest wing. 3 of those patients to be discharged today. We're waiting for the relatives to collect them. They will be on oxygen.
Okay, so you just heard from the Ministry of Health personnel. At this time, we want to take you straight to the phone line, and we have on the phone is the chairperson of the VA4 South District Disaster Committee, and that is Miss Lindy Aristide. Miss Aristide, good morning, good evening, sorry. Thanks for joining us on Storm Watch. You are on the ground. What is the situation in VA4 at the moment?
I'm sorry, I missed the spot. Can you hear me clearly? It's a little noisy.
You're coming in loud and clear, Lindy.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Okay, good night, everyone. Lindy Aristide, chairperson of the South District Disaster Committee. The infant secondary school has been activated, and we have 7 surgeries, 3 females and 4 males. The 3 females, we have patients between the ages of 9 to 66 years, and the males 11 to 62 years. Of those 2 males, of the 7 surgeries, 1 is a disabled male, a 40-year-old wheelchair-bound brown person, and the other is a child, a female, who is disabled. We also received reports of packing of wires, electrical wires, along the Meadow Road. We also have persons who have called in and indicated that they've noted packing of poles along the promenade, and there's also a fallen wire or cable along the in the mound behind the Seventh Adventist Church. So we've gotten, and we're also able to see there are a lot of poles or wires which are stuck in at the moment around the shelter. Okay, so it is quite dusty. We have dusty rooms. We also want to caution persons that they should not come out. At the moment, the road, which leads the fastest before highway, or to the end of the runway. I don't see much of the that area there was a buildup of sediment fluid, which made it impossible for persons to travel. So we would like to caution all persons to be very careful. We know that because of the dusty, we have a number of fallen wires or stacking wires at the moment. So unfortunately, I'm sure people like this cannot really come out at the moment, but please be careful. The shelter has been activated and we are available to assist our team and our disaster committee. So this is this all for now at our shelter. And we have also gotten the support of our other shelter managers who are available in the event that the shelter is activated at all.
Okay, the Beaufort town is a fishing community as well. What level of intervention had been made on behalf of the fishers there? Did we just lose Ms. MC?
Is she still on? Lindy?
Are you still on?
Yes, I'm on. I didn't hear the question. What's the question?
Okay. I'm asking, in terms of the fishers in Vieux-Fort, what sort of intervention has been made on their behalf?
What intervention?
Uh-huh.
Do we have,
in terms of the craft, the sea craft, and I'm sure, of course, with the instruction they would have had to take those inland. What sort of intervention was made on their behalf?
I can hardly hear what you're saying, unfortunately. Are you talking about safety in terms of persons traversing the road?
Issue?
Lindy?
Is that? I can hardly hear what you're saying.
Lindy?
No, I can't hear your question.
Try one more.
Okay, so how are the fishermen down in Vieux-Fort?
What is the weather like?
The fishers.
The what, sorry?
Okay.
Okay, we may have to terminate this call. Yes.
But Lindy, if you can, by any chance, hear me, you address some of the measures taken with some of the families who need shelter at this time. For certain, these individuals occupying these shelters would be thoroughly looked after over the course of this evening and into tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I'm having difficulty hearing you. I would love to listen, but I can't hear you. Sorry, are you not audible? Sorry.
All right. Well, we'll perhaps have to end it here.
Yes,
for now.
We have to call back a little later.
Over the course of tonight, we could try to make contact with chairs, leadership of the various district disaster committees throughout the island's 17 constituencies. I want to still thank Lindy for taking the time to join us. A team down there in Vieux-Fort South has had to be activated. They're now tending to personnel, individuals who are occupying the Beanfield Secondary School. It is a designated emergency shelter in Vieux-Fort South. Lindy also indicated that the tropical storm Bret, has caused some wind-related damage, downed power lines and trees. But if I'm not mistaken, she indicated that the necessary interventions have been deployed. So teams are working to sort of restore connectivity and ensure roadways, highways and byways remain clear, traversable. This is Stormwatch. We'll continue to provide you with coverage, updates, bulletins related to the passage of Tropical Storm Bret as the evening progresses. Earlier in this broadcast, we had a conversation with the Director of Met Services. The update or developments in the change of Bret's pathway is encouraging for St. Lucia.
Yes.
The storm has dipped further south but Mr. Joye, the Director of Med Services, did issue this cautionary note. The brunt of Bret can still pack a punch, and St. Lucia can expect to experience strong winds, gusty winds. Lindy in V4 South just confirmed that V4 South has experienced strong and gusty winds, so that is a likelihood. Heavy rainfall is likely this evening, and St. Lucia remains under a tropical storm.
So
warning citizens, residents, low-lying areas. This is rudimentary at this point. Stay indoors and wait for the all clear from the NEMO or the Prime Minister. We also had a discussion with the the director of the NEOC, Mr. Lucius Lake. He indicated that there was at least one rescue.
Yes, I think that was in the Dennery area.
Dennery Village. A 98-year-old woman had to be removed from her dwelling and taken to a shelter nearby. Hopefully, we can get a chance to speak with the DDC for Dennery South. That's Mr. Osbert Regis, former police commissioner. Other emergency shelters, a few of them, have been activated in advance of Tropical Storm Bret's passage. These individuals who occupy a few of those shelters virtually have no place to stay, or their dwellings are just too compromised to chance riding out this storm in their homes. So also, over the course of this evening, we revisited the pre-strike meeting, the final pre-strike meeting before today, before Bret moves through our part of the region. We heard from various stakeholders, the Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Health, just a few moments ago, the public health institutions, OKEU, Victoria Hospital, now the Castries Urban Health Polyclinic. Yes.
The Castries Urban Polyclinic.
And even St. Jude Hospital officials representing these institutions confirmed today to the Prime Minister, to the NEMAC, that their systems were a go. The necessary precautionary measures were activated and is ready to sort of weather the brunt of Bret, weather Bret's passage tonight.
Weather the storm.
Yes, weather the storm. So we do have a few more stakeholders to listen to in relation to their state of readiness. We have SLASPA, we have the police, we have quite a few of them. So we will now try to cue the head of the St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority. Before today, or as of 10:30 this morning, both airports were shut down temporarily, and by 1 p.m. the seaports and shipping ports were shut down.
All in an effort to ensure that life and property are secured, are safe, and that is very paramount.
Yes. So in a few moments we will hear from SLASPA to get a sense of their state of readiness ahead of Tropical Storm Bret.
Good morning everyone. Morning Prime Minister, members of Cabinet, acknowledging the head table, and persons who are viewing. Darren Snack, General Manager, St. Lucia Air and Seaports Authority, and I would also like to acknowledge the Chair of my Disaster Management Committee, Mr. Nicholas Myers, who is also here with us today. With regards to SLASPA and our responsiveness, firstly, thank you very much, Prime Minister, for the decision on the airports. And just to indicate the importance to everyone, what it allowed SLASPA to do last night is to issue what you call a notice to airmen. It allowed us to inform the community internationally that the airports will be closed from 10:30 today. In fact, the last flight is leaving George Charles Airport at 9:50 this morning. So that allowed us to communicate with the international community very early, so you don't have persons going to the airport this morning trying to get a flight out of St. Lucia and you don't have flights available. With regards to our facilities in general, we do have all of the vehicle fleet and our generators, of course, topped up as our normal emergency response and disaster preparedness. Our entire disaster preparedness team, chaired by Mr. Myers, would have met yesterday just to review and ensure that everything is in place with regards to the upcoming system. At the airports, we do have 7 days of storage of water, and we also do have, of course, our generators, which would allow for electricity continuity for a few days. We would have also, at the seaports, ensured that the drains have been cleared in terms of any flooding, to allow as much as possible for water to get outside of the facility into the seas. Our navigational systems, lights, etc., would have been removed. Our boats would have been, our pilot boats would have been removed from the waters. And of course, after operations, when businesses close at the seaports at 1 o'clock today, then we would take out whatever is remaining within the seaports, because again, we would be serving the public and the customers up until that time. SLASPA, once we close at 1 o'clock, we will be doing sandbags, Laplace carénage, just to secure the facilities, and at the airports as well. This would be done on closure from 10:30 and at the seaports from 1 o'clock. The container stacks, which is normal, we put them at 2 levels to ensure that if you have any strong winds, you don't have any containers that are dislodged and cause a lot of harm. So that has happened. The crane would have been lowered as well. Our ports police will be on duty. They are, of course, very critical in terms of security in the facilities. So they are on shift and they will be on duty throughout. We do have barracks at the facilities, all of our facilities at SLASPA. And I think I would have spoken about the NOTAM. Yes, in terms of communication, very importantly, we a few months ago would have ordered some new radios, handheld radios, in the event that our main communication system goes down. SLASPA also in the past would have ordered satellite phones. So therefore, we have one in the north, one in the south, to ensure that, again, that there is seamless communication and persons can report on anything that would have happened in terms of any adverse incidents that may happen at any of the facilities. So we also have satellite phones and radio communication throughout the authority. I think these would be the main points. Chair, disaster management.
Airport.
And the airports, yes, Prime Minister.
So the airport closes at 10:30.
10:30 today, yes. Yeah.
And it will be reopened after there's all clear.
Yes, so once the assessment is done of the airport, once we get the all clear and everything is normalized, the NOTAM, with an issuance of a notice to air mariners, you have to have an end time. So we have given them an end time, I think, of 3 o'clock tentatively tomorrow, but that changes based on all clear and once all the conditions are acceptable for the aviation industry.
And you close the airport based on?
The airport was closed based on discussions between NEMO and some of our key stakeholders to ensure that besides the traveling public, that the entire airline community, the 1,300 plus persons we have working within our airport community, can get home safely. So that is why the airports were closed. It also allowed for early notification so that the airlines would not be in transit, and we await a decision out of NIMAC, Prime Minister, so that they would not be traveling to St. Lucia, because the airplanes cannot safely land or depart above 20 knots. And with tropical storm force winds expected, it would not be safe at all for the aircraft to operate within our space. So looking at all of those factors, the decision was taken to close at 10:30 this morning. And as well, some of the airlines, especially the regional airlines, have moved to cancel flights because they realize their own mobility. The main cargo planes at George Charles would have relocated their operations very early once there was a threat coming into St. Lucia.
Our schools remain closed today. Our principals, many of our schools are really emergency shelters. And principals, as the managers of the school, are really the managers of the hurricane shelters. They have been instructed to make all necessary facilities, kitchens available for the purposes of any evacuation purposes for any homes. So they are standing by. Also, we have asked that, especially where schools are prone to flooding, to remove all furniture and equipment and to place them on higher ground. Additionally, we have our building officers who are ready to stand by when the all clear is given so that they could go out, make the necessary assessments for continuity of school. We have also been in touch with UNICEF, who also stands ready to provide any support to the education system. And lastly, we have our continuity of operations plan, including the use of technology, if it permits, to allow for continuity of school beyond the period. And this is it. I thank you.
We would have taken a decision yesterday in collaboration with NEMO and the Met Office to ask students to stay home today. And in true St. Lucian fashion, we've gotten some flack because as far as people are concerned, there's no rain. Why are the students at home? What you must take into consideration is that the degree of vulnerability for children is a lot higher than that of the adult. Where children see fun and adventure, when the water levels rise, we see danger as adults. So let us be safe rather than sorry. And so moving forward, once we are under a tropical storm warning, the students of St. Lucia, whether there's rain or not, will be asked to stay home. We have a few exams, regional exams that are ongoing as we speak. This morning, KIP paper is being administered, and KIP is the replacement of, well, the CXC version of what used to be the A-level exams. And we have exams this morning at 3 centers, the Vieux Fort Comprehensive Secondary School, the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and we are using the Stanley John Odlum Secondary School in Marigot as a private center. So exams are ongoing this morning. We were in consultation with CXC, and even among ourselves, there were a few persons who thought that the exam should have been postponed. We said no, reason being, the paper being administered today is of a duration of 1 hour and 30 minutes. So they would have started at 9, and 1 hour 30 minutes thereafter, that paper would have been written. Again, moving forward, we will rely on information from the Met Office and NEMO to determine how we move forward. But there are contingencies in place at the level of CXC in terms of what we should do in the event that the exams cannot be administered because of the threats posed by the impending system.
Okay, so you just heard from the Minister for Education, Honorable Sean Edward. And for some of you who might be experiencing some downlines, Lucia wants to remind you of the 24-hour fault reporting, and those are the numbers: 4522-165, 4522-165, and that is from the areas from Kappa State to Dennery right through the West Coast, and from Miku to Buto is 4574800. Again, 4574800 and 4522165. Okay, with me now is the Acting Chief Fire Officer, Mr. Ditney Downs. Welcome, Mr. Ditney. It's not an occasion where I can say welcome to you. I'm sure at this time your men might be stretched, but just give us an idea of what is happening in terms of the deployment of your officers.
Okay, as the primary response agency on the island, we are always ready to respond to any major emergencies. As we speak, during the storm or just before, we responded to one incident in Dennery where we evacuated a 98-year-old lady from the shorelines in Dennery, and we also received a call for pole fire and slurry. We are still evaluating whether we should respond to that. But that will be based on the response we get from Lucia, because we cannot respond without Lucia in terms of electrical fires and pole fires. So that is still being evaluated as we speak. But so far it has, in terms of responses, these are just the only two major responses and or calls we have gotten for help from the fire department. What really happens
as far as the fire service is concerned, when you are preparing for such an event, how do you go about deploying your men and women to ensure that every area at least is adequately manned, or you can respond to any eventuality?
Okay, so we take there are two factors we take into consideration. Firstly, we ensure that we have adequate manpower for response purposes, and two, we also have to look at, whilst we want adequate manpower, we also have to look at accommodation. So you cannot have 20 persons in a station and you only have accommodation for 10. So we normally do not cancel the leave of firefighters. What we do is a partial cancellation of leave. So we need 10 persons. That will be the maximum response persons we need. We need 10 persons, but in actual fact, we only have 5 on duty, then we'll cancel the leave of 5. So we know the station could accommodate 10 persons, and that 10 persons will be adequate for any major response in that area. So that is what we do when we plan for responses during situations like that.
Now, with the down power lines, of course, some homes will be experiencing power outage. And of course, they would tend to use candles. And we have seen over the years fires in certain areas of the island. How I need you as fire chief, acting fire chief, to speak to persons, to households, what sort of precautionary measure they can take during this time.
Okay, we always advise, and my fire prevention department have done a phenomenal job in advising citizens that we do leave open flames unattended. Obviously, candles will be used during times like that, but when you decide to go to bed, we advise that you put these candles out. Okay? So we want to stress again that you do leave open flames unattended, especially if you have children. Whether you have children or not, you don't do it, but especially if you have children. And what we have seen over the years is that parents allow children to handle open flames, candles, and so on, and that is where the problem starts. So, as a responsible parent, you do allow children to handle candles, or take the candle and go and look for that in the room, and so on. So, we want to advise persons that to be careful in terms of handling candles and so on, open flames.
Now, your job also entails rescuing, as we have seen before, even livestock, even sometimes when the farmers go into, to rescue their animals and they get stuck. So we're not just dealing with the remedial part of it, but we want to do the preventative aspect of it. So I wanted to speak to that aspect. What is it that is expected from citizens when a storm, weather system is approaching, in terms of taking care of our houses, but also those with livestock?
Yeah, so we all, it's interesting that you say we have to rescue animals, and we do that a lot, especially cats. For some reason, people
cats
are
too.
People are very protective of the cats in St. Lucia. So they always call us to rescue the cats, whether it's during storms or not. We always have to do that. But the Ministry of Agriculture, before hurricane, would advise that person secure their livestock. Now, you know, that's our culture in St. Lucia, that we some, you know, follow, some don't. And then where you get a call that, you know, you need to, even cows, you get a call that, you know, they want us to come and assist them in rescuing the cows, the sheep, the goats. Our job is to protect life and property.
Or life.
So it does say that you have to protect human lives,
very well,
or animal lives, you know, it's life and property. So we have to respond. And then we'll assess the situation, assess the risk involved, and then we'll make a determination as to what's the next course of action.
And perhaps you probably just wanted to give some general guidelines, advice to the people who are watching right now.
Okay, so from a fire department point of view, an emergency response point of view, I want to urge St. Lucians and citizens, you know, to take the warning of NEMO, take the warning of the police, take the warnings of the fire department. Stay indoors during the time frame that has been identified as it relates to the tropical storm. What we have realized in past years when we in that situation, that most of our calls for assistance are during the storm, because people didn't listen. We cannot go out and assist you during the storm, because we have to protect ourselves too. You know, the person in charge of that response, their first responsibility is the safety of the officers under their command. So we cannot put these officers in harm's way, because if these officers are in harm's way, they cannot do what they're supposed to do. So we advise that, you know, if you take the head of the response agencies, then we shouldn't have a problem. But we cannot come to your aid or your to assistance of you or your family during the peak of the tropical depression or the hurricane. So I just want to tell St. Lucians, you know, to listen. Your life is more important than anything else. And some persons are being encouraged to evacuate their homes because of where they are located, and they have refused. You know, we have gotten reports that they have asked persons to evacuate because of the potential dangers, and they have refused to evacuate. We cannot force you as a fire department to evacuate, you know, and we cannot, if something were to go wrong, we cannot assist you in the, you know, during this storm. So I just want to encourage St. Lucians, and I hope that, you know, everything goes well and we have no loss of life and minimal damage to properties.
So just before you go, Mr. Downs, I must say publicly that I really admire the fire officers. I know you have a tremendous responsibility, sometimes putting your own life at risk. But how are your men and women doing generally?
Well, I'll not say they're doing good. I will not say they're doing good. I mean, generally fire officers love what they do. But lately we have been subjected to some really violent scenes in St. Lucia. And I think it's taken a toll on the officers mentally. But they are trained, they are humans. Once they are trained for these situations, they are also humans, right? So there's a lot of non-traditional issues within the department that we have to deal with in terms of psychological help, counseling.
So there is debriefing.
There is debriefing. But the reality is the average age of fire officers, the population of fire officers, is about 23, 24 years. That's the reality. So you have young persons
very young,
being subjected to that kind of sin. So as a management team of the fire department, we have to, look at all these things, and it presents a different challenge for us. So once we have everything going on, then we have new areas to deal with. But like I said, firefighters are committed, and you no matter what the situation, no matter what frame of mind they're in, they will respond to the
And that's
calls out
good.
St. Lucia.
That's quite commendable.
Yes, and you know, the last year's figure, I think we responded to 14,000 ambulance calls in a year.
Wow.
You know,
that must be very traumatic for your men and women.
Very. You know, so they work hard. I could tell you they work hard. We are understaffed. You know, we are understaffed. You know, the same officers that work the ambulance, sometimes when they get a break from the ambulance during the tour, they have to work the desk or they have to double up on the truck. You know, so a lot of persons, I'm happy that you say you admire them, but a lot of persons do show that level of respect to them or admiration to them, but I can tell you, I admire the officers I lead, and I will continue to do what we're supposed to do despite the challenges that we face.
Well, thank you, Mr. Down. Nice talking to you, and all the best to you and your men, and I just pray that this would have been over us.
Yeah, I'm hoping that that will happen, and
yes.
Again, I want to wish St. Lucians, you know, a safe, the safe period, you know, during that challenging time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Sir.
All right. So at this time, we want to go back to one of the NEMAC meetings, and we have one already queued up for you, and we're going to bring you one of those pre-strike meetings.
Stormwatch. I am Rihani Isidore, and if you're now joining us, we are providing updates and coverage of Tropical Storm Bret as it moves over St. Lucia and the Windward Islands. We have been receiving reports of gusty winds and damage over the course of the evening, and it is important to keep handy numbers for some of the essential service providers that you can dial if you realize that there is a downed power line or even damaged water pipes in your area. Wasco is the chief water supplier in St. Lucia. They have teams on standby to respond to any pipe damage. Please take note of the following numbers. They should flash on your screen momentarily. To contact Wasco in the event of a damaged water lines, please dial for Castries 457-3958, 457-3958, or 457-3960. Those are the landlines that you can dial if you're in the Castries area and you detect water damage to your pipes or public pipes in your community. There are mobile numbers as well. If you're not getting through with the landlines, those mobile numbers for Wasco Castries, 482-0052. 482-0052. It's on your screen. Therefore, in the south, landlines for Wasco, 457-3984 or 457-3993. Mobiles for Wasco V4 also, take it down, 482-0051 or 482-0201. These numbers, if you're watching this broadcast on screen right now, take it down. Follow Wasco on Facebook and their social medias as well. You can get updates and know exactly who to call, when to call if you have issues with your water supply as a result of the passage of Tropical Storm Bret, I beg your pardon. With me tonight, the Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Ronald Phillip. Of course, the police form part of St. Lucia's Protective Services. The Acting Commissioner is also part of the NEOC. We will get some insight from Mr. Phillip in relation to the police's role in the event of tropical storms, severe weather events, and hurricanes like we are experiencing tonight. Mr. Phillip,
good night, sir.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're spending the night at Nemo, at the NEOC, as opposed to elsewhere. Duty calls.
Yeah, that's correct. There's no place I would rather be than involved in the preservation of life, property.
Yes, and as far as the police's role, as part of the broader effort to protect property and lives during storms, hurricanes, etc., what are some of the instructions your officers are under as of now?
So currently we have all our officers who they have reported in from vacation. Leave has been cancelled, so the officers most of the officers are at stations closest to where they live.
Cancelling vacation is not unusual, is it?
It's not unusual.
In the event of storms?
Yes, it's not unusual for essential services, especially the police, because we require that all hands are needed to assist during those times
and you
of
really
crisis.
can't take chances in the event of tropical storms, hurricanes, etc. Just earlier tonight, the Director of Met Services indicated that the Tropical Storm Bret may appear to have weakened slightly. However, that is no reason or indication, as he pointed out rightfully so, that we should take it easy or be more laid back. So your officers, all hands are on deck. Vacation leave has been cancelled, and they are at the ready to respond if needs be.
Yes, that's correct. And that's one thing about it. That's why policing is such a noble profession. So before, just let me thank the officers who come out, because it's a sacrifice. They have left their families, their loved ones, and they're out there weathering the storm to ensure that St. Lucians are safe. So on behalf of the entire St. Lucia, on behalf of the executive of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, I want to thank all those officers, those hardworking, those dedicated officers who have dedicated themselves and made themselves available to respond should the need arise.
And as far as some of the activity your officers would have been engaged in over the course of the day and tonight, would patrolling throughout the various communities be included in that? What would have been some of the activities your officers would have been looking out for and involved in leading up to now and over the coming hours?
Even before patrolling, some of the officers, I know Soufriere, Labrie, different policing districts, they would have met with the disaster management groups in the communities and come up with some plans as to how they would police those zones. So prior to now, so we divided the country into 4 zones: Zone A, Zone B, Zone C, Zone D. Zone A is the North Zone, that's headed by Assistant Commissioner of Police Elvis Thomas. Zone B, that's from Richford to Viewfort, that's headed by Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police Albert Challery. Zone C, which is from Labrie to Soufriere, that's headed by Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police Luc de Freitas. And Zone D, that's the West Coast, Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police Fabian Montout. So this is the first time we have sort of used that kind of approach, where we divided the country into 4 zones so that each Assistant Commissioner of Police could have responsibility, so there could be greater focus on each area or specification. So that is an operational change that we made coming into this hurricane season.
And no doubt that kind of adjustment to sort of concentrate efforts across throughout 4 zones would have been informed by some sort of scientific analysis there. This worked somewhere else, it could work for St. Lucia?
Right. So what we don't want to have duplicity of roles, and we don't want to confuse the public, so that the areas know exactly who the commander is. So instead of one person being bombarded with calls, so there's almost like a separation of duty where persons can be held accountable, because we have seen in cases where we have had natural disasters, even in the US, and because of the level of confusion, because operations are not streamlined, then it lends itself to chaos. So we tried, so that this was one activity we used in terms of trying to mitigate against any issues coming into the storm.
Yeah, but you are here at the NAOC, you have 4 zones, as you just pointed out. Do your commanding officers, are you still in regular contact with them as the evening progresses?
Yes, so that's correct. That's correct. The commanding officers, they would be reporting to me, and we have been reporting. They have reported to me up to about 15 minutes ago, and they have all reported that their zones are quite quiet.
Yep, and that's crucial. Over the past few minutes, the eye of Tropical Storm Bret would have moved closer, and perhaps even moving over St. Lucia as we speak. Downpours would be increasing in certain areas. Wind gusts have been affecting certain parts of the island now. Your officers in those various zones would be taking note of those updates, those developments in those communities?
Yes, that's quite correct. So right, so that's quite correct. So the officers, the commanders are responsible for stations. So the stations, if they recognize any issues, you report to the commanders, and the necessary adjustments or the necessary actions will be taken. So for example, in ancillary, in the West Coast, in the West Zone, it was reported that there was some issue with
I think it was power lines.
Power lines.
Yeah.
So the police would respond and call Lucia and call the fire service the necessary action. So that's the kind of level of coordination. But so with the police, we're working jointly. As you know, Acting Fire Chief Disney Downs is right here with me. So we are working. It's almost as if there's a joint approach.
Now, whilst you're supporting the national effort to mitigate against damage caused by Tropical Storm Bret, the police, their chief responsibility is, of course, security. So a tropical storm or some weather event is occurring over St. Lucia. That doesn't mean that your other responsibilities must be neglected in any way. So security is still a priority, right?
Yes, and that's correct. And again, our primary function is security of property, preservation of life. We know that sometimes criminals use these opportunities to loot, to vandalize. The police, prior to the storm, we would have gotten some extra vehicles. SSU is a little more mobile, a little more agile in terms of responding to any
faster
acts.
Response times. Yeah.
Yes, increased response time rather. So, right outside the command center, we have Sergeant Noel's team who is present to take any instructions. Again, the police have to operate in this kind of dangerous condition, and it is the police know that they have 100% support from the executive to take whatever action that is deemed necessary to prevent crime or or vandalism of property of any sort. Again, the police officers are there. I employ them to be professional and act within the parameters of the law, but we are not going to tolerate any persons engaging in nefarious activity or thinking that they can use this term to exploit hardworking citizens of this country.
And as a career police officer, I mean, you would be familiar with persons sort of trying to exploit opportunities like now?
Yeah, that's correct. And that's what normally happens when persons believe that everybody is inside, that they're free to operate. But I can tell you we have police officers in every district, and our streets are properly policed.
And that will not affect patrolling, or how might the passage of a storm affect patrolling and the routine duties of a Dennery police station or an ancillary police station and so on?
Obviously, it's going to impede. So it's going to impede police intervention, but it is not going to stop police action, because we don't have a military and the police, and that is the role of the police. We are not going to endanger ourselves, or we're not asking police officers to put their lives at risk. But if it warrants that a response is needed, I am sure that we have a high level of commitment from the men and women of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and they are going to respond to any eventualities or any circumstance that they deem necessary.
So men and women of the police force performing dual duties tonight, security as well as disaster response, in collaboration, of course, with the rest of, with the likes of the fire service and so on. Mr. Acting Commissioner, I want to thank you for your time. If we are able to get further updates from you and through your officers later on this evening, we hope to invite you back. This is a reminder, this is Storm Watch, providing you, the general public, with some updates as it relates to the passage of Tropical Storm Bret. Today, just a reminder, if you're just joining the broadcast, the NEMAC held its second pre-strike meeting. The commissioner, of course, was in attendance. We will now hear from some of the other essential services, emergency services, protective services personnel who were at the pre-strike meeting earlier today, who gave the Prime Minister and the board of NEMAC their respective updates. So let's go back to that NEMAC meeting.
I would have actually gone to the point of saying that it could be a hurricane. But I just got the 11 a.m. position, and the strength remains at 70 miles per hour. So it's a strong tropical storm. A hurricane is 73 miles per hour. The other system at the back of it is tropical depression number 4. So given a better picture of how close it is to us. So St. Lucia is over here. So we actually having clouds already affecting Barbados. And those are mostly high-level clouds. So the winds should be coming in later this afternoon. So going on to the presentation. Okay, this is a schematic of what is to come. Give you a better picture of how things are. So I'm going to give the 8 a.m. position. It's 13.6 degrees north, 57.0 degrees west. It's about 270 miles east of St. Lucia, and the maximum sustained winds are 70 miles per hour or 110 kilometers per hour. Oh, sorry, no, the mode, yeah, thanks. And it's moving westward at 280 degrees or 280 degrees at 15 miles per hour. So it's actually slowed down. This is the model forecast, and actually all the forecasts have it passing north of us. One or two have the system passing over the tip of the island. So this is actually encouraging in that most of the weather is north of the system. So all the tropical storm force winds are most likely north of that. This is the intensity model. So it's not expected, except in those two outliers, to become a hurricane. What is normally in the model and what happens sometime can be different.
This is Stormwatch. Ball by ball coverage, updates in relation to Tropical Storm Bret. Thank you all for staying with us over these past hours. Julita, we've heard from quite a few members of the NEOC, and we would have also heard the level of preparedness from the NEMAC membership. And as this point tonight, we'd like to invite St. Lucia to tell us what the experience is like in your neck of the woods. How is Tropical Storm Bret affecting you, your community? We do have a number that you can call into right now. We'll do our best to give you a listening ear. Tell St. Lucia, let the world know exactly what your experience is like as we speak in relation to Tropical Storm Bret. Do you have that number?
Is 713-8880. 713-8880. This is the number you can call and let us know what is happening in your neck of the woods.
Feel free to call. As things stand now, and according to the Director of Met Services, not too long ago, Tropical Storm Bret is affecting St. Lucia. It remains a strong tropical system, although the path has slightly changed, moving southerly between St. Lucia and St. Vincent. This is not to be interpreted in any way to mean that the system will not affect us.
That is right.
We are still expecting tropical storm, almost hurricane storm force winds, and there is the potential for downpours up to 8 inches of rainfall in certain areas in St. Lucia.
So let us continue to take precaution and take personal responsibility, and that is important. We need to take personal responsibility for our own safety and well-being.
And that is staying indoors. Have your family emergency plans at the ready. You would have heard from the director of NEMO in the days leading up to now about the importance of being prepared for weather events, whether it's a tropical storm or a hurricane. Your family emergency plan should be available to everyone in your household. Everyone should know the safest place in the house to go in the event your building, your dwelling is compromised in any way. Of course, there are essentials that you should always have at home, especially considering that the Atlantic hurricane season lasts from June to November, and it's a yearly occurrence. This is common knowledge, should be common knowledge for all of us living in this part of the world. And Tropical Storm Bret, a mere 20-21 days or thereabout into the hurricane season, is already affecting us.
We want to give the numbers again for Lucia and Wasco.
Yes.
And those numbers are for Wasco, Wasco Command Center, for the Castries region, that number would be 4573958 or 4573960, or you have mobile 4519812. And there's also WhatsApp number 4820052. For the Viewfort area, those numbers would be 4573984 or 4573993. Also, there is a WhatsApp number 4820051, 4820201. And for Lucia, the number is 4522165, and that's from Kappa State to Denry right through the West Coast, and also 45748,000, that's from Miku to Buto. So these are the numbers that you can call in the event that you have some interruption of some kind, whether it be a down power line or has something to do with your water. You can call the utility companies, and of course they're going to be there as far as as far as it's all safe to do so.
Once it's
yes,
safe,
once it's safe to do so.
They are the experts. They have
Yes.
the capabilities of navigating
Yes.
to get to the critical
Yes.
emergencies. So allow them to operate as efficiently as possible. So this, just to remind our viewers as to our location, we are at station broadcasting live from the NEMO Secretariat. This building is a crucial piece of public infrastructure. It has to stay optimal at all times. And our presence here, well, we don't want to sort of strain on the resources here. This broadcast, we do not want this broadcast, for instance, to sort of divert resources away from the NEMO. It is important, and we hope to have provided you with some updates to keep you informed and in the know as to what's happening throughout St. Lucia. But at this juncture, to ensure that NEMO performs optimally and the NEOC and the other personnel here and have the resources needed to see out the night and respond efficiently, we need to conclude at this juncture. And if needs be,
we will be rejoining
down the road.
Yes.
Provide further updates. So just
until
to
then, until then, we just would like our viewers to stay safe, don't venture out,
stay indoors,
stay indoors, and of course, stay tuned to the updates.
Yes, the Met Services will continue providing weather bulletins. NEMO will continue issuing advisories in terms of disaster preparedness and the do's and don'ts. Pay attention, take heed, of course, collect your information from official sources. This cannot be stressed enough.
Yes.
Despite the apparent weakening of the tropical storm Bret, please stay indoors. Do not venture out at this point in time. St. Lucia, this has been Stormwatch. We want to thank you for taking the time out and tuning in tonight. And we hope to be with you when the developments come in over the course of tonight.
Sure.
Good night.
Good night.